Hey there, today we're unraveling the significance of knowing, defining, and communicating our individual roles. This exploration is not merely about job titles, it's about the orchestration of our talents, of our strengths, and the contributions that we can make to our communities. And a community might be a partnership, husband and wife partnership. A community might be the family dynamic. A community might be your business. The community might be the community, or the community might be the networking group that you belong to. However, you want to define it within each of those entities, we are defined by the roles that we take in those dynamics. So today we're going to jump into the 5 pillars because I love that number 5. It's easy to count. You have 5 fingers. So we're going to talk about the 5 pillars, my perceived pillars of our roles within our communities, the different dynamics with which we function and operate in. So grab a cup of coffee and let's get going with today's discussion on the roles we fill. My name is Lisa Mosbey, and I'm the host of Living with Favor. Favor is an acronym for faith, abundance, vitality, overflow, and relationships. Of course, there's 5 pillars within this show because it helps us to remember things when we can, pick them off. There's 5 types of salmon, and you can remember them by the 5 fingers. If you've been on an Alaskan cruise, you might know what I'm talking about there. But today we're going to jump into these pillars, these roles, and we've been discussing community all month long. I've had a few different folks that we've interviewed, people who started their own communities, who are leading communities, communities that I'm part of and get to play a role in as the leadership, one of the leadership members, as a role in as one of the facilitators. So I have different roles in the different communities and organizations that I'm in. And I wanted to define that. I wanted to just take a minute to, maybe not have any guests, but give you a little bit of advice. Every once in a while, I like to step in here and take assimilate, the information that I've learned from the many guests that I've had in the month or in the quarter and kind of bring it together. This is my takeaway of what I've been learning from other people. So let's get started with the 5 pillars. The 5 pillars of community. When I think of that, the first one is really the clarity and alignment. Clearly defining roles ensures everyone understands their responsibilities and aligns their efforts with the organization's goals. Whether that's the family dynamic, the relationship dynamic, or the business dynamic, there are roles to be played. And what we're going to find out through this discovery process today is when we stay in our own lanes, sometimes we're more efficient because we have clearly defined roles. We don't step on each other's toes. We know where the direction is that we're going, and we will get there further, faster when we work together and collaborate, identifying our roles and collaborating within that process, holding ourselves accountable to the role that we are in during that collaboration. Collaborate, which leads me to pillar number 2, collaborate efficiently. Knowing your role fosters smoother collaboration, it reduces friction, and it enhances the team efficiency. It also enhances the team dynamic. Rather than working against each other or creating friction or disagreeing, when we each function in our area of strength within our role, we're actually working together to grow something. Have you ever heard that phrase, a rising tide raises all boats? Because we all are working together to raise up the goals, the dreams, the desires, the direction of what that community is aiming for. Third pillar that I wrote down was empowerment and autonomy. Individuals with clearly defined roles feel empowered to take ownership of their responsibilities. Promoting autonomy within a team, when we can empower someone and say, this is on you, you need to own it. And if you don't own it, we may put somebody else in that position because it might not be in an area of strength for you. So when we can give that up, rather than trying to micromanage and be in charge of every single thing, spread the responsibilities out. Nobody gets overwhelmed, or we reduce the chances of people getting overwhelmed. And we're bringing in a team family dynamic and causing accountability and responsibility for our actions. And then people also know that what they say matters because you've anointed them. You've blessed them with that position, that leadership position, to know that they're going to be held accountable. They're going to need to do what needs to get done, or else there's a consequence. Number 4, productivity. When each team member understands their role, it streamlines the process, leading to increased overall productivity. Again, this takes me back to that saying, stay in your own lane. When you have your lane, when you're driving down the highway, we don't cut other people off, or at least I hope we don't cut other people off, because it causes accidents, and then you get this log jam. Everything gets backed up and nobody gets anywhere. We're all stuck in line. And that same process can happen within our businesses, our family dynamics, and our personal relationships if we don't stay in our own lane. We have to define those lanes and the role that we play in that lane, and then traffic moves smoothly. We go with the flow, we're productive, we're moving forward, and we're working together, which leads me to number 5, and that is building a cohesive team. And that team might be 2 people, that team might be a family of 5, that team might be a business of 1,000. It doesn't matter what that team dynamic is. The idea is to build a cohesive team so that the roles are clear. We've clarified the strengths of the individuals on the team and what they're going to be doing. Even babies on the team, the baby might be to reduce everybody's stress. We take turns holding the baby because we're building up those hormones, that oxytocin within our system, that joyful hormone. So I get to hold the baby. Baby's role is to raise oxytocin levels in the family. Everyone from the infant all the way up to mom and pop, everybody in that family dynamic has a role. And when the kids are clear and they know what their role is, life for mom and dad can oftentimes be a little bit smoother because we're flowing. In a business dynamic, when the leadership, mid-leadership, the team leads, when everybody knows what their role is and who they're responsible for and who they report to, it's easy for us to put a hand out and give somebody a hand up or a leg up versus, they're out to get my job, or the different conflicts that can occur in a team. They drift away when project by project we assign roles, and maybe those roles change between the different projects. But once we have a project and we define the role and we define the strengths of the individual and why they were selected for that role, and then we create accountability and hold people accountability for the roles they're playing on the projects that they're on, we will start to create that cohesive team and not creating conflict. You're not going to be barging into my lane, and I'm not going to be barging into your lane doing your job. Stay the course, and we'll see where we go. There's a check-in process that comes with this. The goals, the checkpoints, if you will, to see if we need to make those shifts so that we can continue to move forward. Sometimes we may have somebody in the wrong role because it's not their strength, but we'll address that. But these 5 ideas, these 5 pillars, are kind of the strength of how we identify roles and build a strong, cohesive, harmonious working environment, wherever that environment is, whether it's in the home or it's in the workplace. So let's start with couples. We'll go from 2, then we'll go to the family, and then we'll go to the business or community, if you will. So within a couple, what kind of roles are significant in that relationship? It's a partnership dynamic. There are fewer positions, 2 generally. So by nature, in a partnership, there are multiple roles. Each person may be responsible for more than one role. Still is important to identify what are the roles that the partners are each going to be behaving within, so that we don't cross each other's lanes. So things that don't get left on the wayside, so that we don't forget things, and that we're in that cohesive relationship. It's necessary to share the balance of giving and receiving when we're in a partnership, and we also need to allow for support and independence. The balance of giving and receiving, by doing that, both partners feel that they're contributing and they're receiving from the relationship equally. The balance prevents feelings of resentment and being taken for granted. Have you ever felt taken for granted in a partnership, in a love relationship, or even in a friendship? It happens. Sometimes one person is doing all the giving, and some one person is giving doing all the receiving, and then we get out of balance, and it can foster these feelings of resentment. So, how do we make sure that everybody is giving and everybody is taking? It not that it has to be the same all the time or equal all the time. There will be times when one person needs more support. Maybe they're going through a job change or a health challenge or something, so they need more support. But if you're not that person that is there to provide support when your partner or your companion needs it, how do you expect to receive that when it's your turn? So it's important to foster that balance. Talking about support and independence, each partner needs to feel significance and supported to know that their goals, their dreams matter. What they say matters, that their personal growth is important. Um, the relationship matters. All of these different components matter in a relationship because you feel included. If we foster that balance, it's equally important to respect and encourage independence. So when we have that balance, it's easier for us to go out and be independent, for me to pursue my goals, knowing that you'll be there for me as my partner. Or vice versa. You're out and you're pursuing your goals, and you know that I'm back here holding down the fort. I'm taking care of what needs to get done. Each of us get our time to pursue our goals, to pursue our dreams, and then we come together and we share that. We bring that to the relationship, and it builds stronger bonds because we're communicating and we're talking about our dreams, our hopes, our desires. Each partner gets to feel free to pursue their interests and maintain their individuality within the context of the relationship. When we're off doing things independently and we don't bring it back to the relationship, when we are not communicating the joy in our life, when we are not communicating the challenges and struggles, and when we are not asking for support, or we're not recognizing and celebrating our partner's successes along with our successes, that's where communication breaks down. Whether it's in that relationship or family. I mean, I'm trying to extrapolate this all the way across the board. These are the components, these are the pillars that matter in all of the different areas of our community, of our teams that we're building. When we can communicate openly and honestly, we have a better chance of understanding the other person's needs and expectations. If we do not communicate what's happening in our life, both the challenges and the successes, how are we going to understand what somebody else is going through? If they're having a bad day and today's the day that we get to step into and be of support to that person, but we don't know because they didn't let us know. Nobody is a mind reader, or at least nobody in my world is a mind reader. And so it's unfair for me to expect them to read my mind and to know what I need. Sometimes we can anticipate that when we've been with someone for a long period of time. Sometimes we can't. We don't know. Just like a baby, we kind of run through the gamut. Are they crying because they're hungry? Are they crying because they need their diaper changed? Are they crying because they're teething? Are they crying because they're sleeping? The cries can be slightly different, and mom might know, but the babysitter may not know. And even dad, if he's not the primary caregiver, he just knows the baby's crying, and he'll still have to maybe run through those 4 or 5 things to identify what is going on. Check the diaper, get the bottle, or see if he needs something to eat. It's a fascinating process to work through and learn how to identify each other's needs and expectations. But it makes it a whole lot easier if we can communicate what those needs and expectations are for ourselves. Now, the other person has a choice. They can step into the role of helping us and supporting us and contributing to our independence, or not. That's on them. But our role as members of communities, as members of families, as members of partnerships, our role is to be the best communicator that we can be to improve the chances of a successful union, a successful community. Effective communication helps in resolving conflicts, expressing feelings, and making decisions together. We can't make decisions together if we are not on the same page. So, how do we get on the same page in all of these different relationships, different roles that we are in. Next one I want to talk about is adaptability. Being adaptive and flexible. It's not my way or the highway, or my way is the only way, right? It's being adaptable and flexible in our relationships that allows us to also receive that flexibility from our partner. That's part of that communication again, is you can identify, this is what I really need on Friday night, and the partner may have a business meeting or something else going on. And then, okay, well, I'm going to get my needs after we go to I'm going to get my needs fulfilled after we go to your business meeting, or before we go to your business meeting. Can we have dinner together and have a conversation about what's going on? And then we'll go out for that social hour with your employees or your business people, whatever that business meeting might be. When we can express those things rather than going resentful and resenting having to go to a business meeting when the partner didn't know, you never told them what was going on. They didn't know that you had needs that need to be met, or a conversation that needed to be had. So in that family dynamic, in that relationship dynamic, how can we best communicate and be adaptable? Be flexible for our partners so that we improve the chances of a healthy dialogue, a healthy relationship, without resentment, without challenging each other for no apparent reason, or for reasons that are unknown because we didn't express them to the other person. Being able to adjust and support our partner through these times is vital. There are always going to be challenges in life, and if we don't learn how to be adaptable, flexible, and communicate what's going on, we're going to be living a life of conflict. And nobody wants to live in that conflict, toxic environment. Next one, mutual respect. How can we express our gratitude, appreciation, and mutual respect for somebody? In a significant relationship, one to one, respecting each other's opinions, boundaries, and differences is fundamental to a healthy partnership. And I say that in the husband and wife dynamic, but the truth is, it's all across the board, even in your business relationships. If people don't know and you haven't set boundaries on, like, these are my work hours. My phone goes on do not disturb at 8 p.m. and it comes off do not disturb at 8 a.m. because working from home and being independent, working online, I could have a 24-hour day. I work with people, within the US. Work with people internationally. If I don't have any boundaries, when will I sleep? When will I eat? When will I do laundry and take care of the, self-care things? I have to create those boundaries. Otherwise, people have access to me all the time. And I was getting burnt out and run down, resentful and angry and not wanting to work. And that wasn't healthy. So by creating the boundaries, letting people know, these are my boundaries. This is how I work, even in the family dynamic growing up. When my dad came home from work, it was a rule. We could look at the clock and say, he gets 30 minutes to get home. Like, his body's physically here, but to unwind, he might go take a shower and might change out of he was a pipe fitter. So he worked in, he worked in basements of schools or boiler rooms. And so he wanted to change and freshen up. And so we couldn't tell him about our day. We couldn't bombard him until 30 minutes. My mom and dad set a boundary. That way he had the space to get here, to get his brain here, to be fully present, and he could sit down with us and we could tell him about his day and he could be interested, not thinking about, going and taking a shower or freshening up or relaxing or whatever that might be. There was that boundary that was created to allow spaciousness, flexibility, and respect of what both of us had to share and offer. He had to hold the space to listen, and the kids got the time to be heard and seen and acknowledged by their dad. So, how are you creating boundaries and letting people know? How are you respecting other people's opinions? We don't have to conflict, we don't have to change their mind. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. And I am always thankful when people share that opinion because it opens the door for communication. If somebody's willing to talk to me and I can express my opinion and listen to their opinion without correcting it, changing it, telling them why it's wrong, listening to what their opinion is, we can come up with solutions. These are the foundations of that healthy partnership. Also that healthy, family dynamic, that healthy work relationship. All of this allows us to grow together. And that's the goal ultimately. We choose people in our life, or we have children that allow us to grow into being parents and grow into, we don't know everything when they're a baby. We learn through the hard way, and we do it better with the second one and the third one, I hope. When we've gone through some of these trials with the kids as they get older, we get better and better at doing the parenting, and we can get through problems faster and faster because we have better skills. And so the same is true in business. When we start to practice some of these behaviors, we will be better leaders to our team. We will be better in being led by our leadership because we can communicate our needs. We can let them know what's working, what's not working within our businesses and our companies. So we get to grow together. So the action item here is check-ins. When are you going to check in and let people know what your boundaries are? When things come up and you're hot? Or what about having those conversations before they're needed? Over dinner, at family dinner, rather than being buried in the phone or working through dinner, having conversations, talking about the goals and the dreams, the aspirations, celebrating the wins of the week every Friday night or every Sunday night, or getting ready for the week of what's to come. That might be Sunday night's dinner. It's like, what does everybody have on their plate? Where are we going to be? What do we have going on? Talking about what that could look like and who's going to be there to celebrate those events in your life. So the actionable tip, just checking in, finding out how people are doing within that dynamic, especially with, significant others. Sometimes it's just the two of us and you think the other person has all the answers and they know what's going on because they see you and they hear you and they're around you, but we don't. We don't always know. Sometimes we just really need to verbalize it and actually let people know what it is, what's happening in our lives, and what are the boundaries that we need to create, and where's the support that we need, and yet being independent, not codependent, but independent and pursuing our own dreams and desires. Family, roles in the family. How do we understand the family dynamic? Discussing those roles is important, and also recognizing our own role within that family dynamic. Some of us, I'm adult child, right? My parents, my dad has passed, my mom is still with us, but on hospice. And so what is my role as their daughter? For a long time, my role was I went and lived my life. But then when they got sick, that dynamic changed. They needed support, they needed help, they needed someone to step in, maybe look out for their finances and look out for their property and look out for, medical pharmaceuticals and managing some of their medical conditions and medical bills and medical appointments, all of those different things. So the dynamic changed. I went from being the daughter, that needed to be taken care of, to the daughter that needs to be doing the taking care of. And so we need to discuss those roles. And I sat down with my mom and dad and had that conversation with them about, what are your expectations? Do you want me to make all the decisions, or do you want me to gather the information and present it to you in a way that allows you to make those decisions for yourself? And at what point, what does it look like when I take over and make those decisions? And we were real clear on those roles so that I didn't step on their toes and didn't push them into something that they weren't wanting to do and force my will upon them, whether it was to save them and prolong their life, or, to help them speed up their exit. They get to make the decision. It's their agency. It's their own responsibility, their own choice. And we need that transfer of information so that we can make the best decisions on behalf of others, whether that's for a parent or a child, a business partner, somebody you're a subordinate to. You represent the leadership, and if they don't convey that information on how they want you to be representing their business or representing their product, that's on them, because you can only work with the information and knowledge that you have. And if that doesn't get conveyed to you, oftentimes we say, consider the management. You may have heard that saying as well. It's like, wow, look at how that company's run. It all trickles down from the management. Like, did they express what needed to be done? What roles their people, their underlings needed to fulfill? And did those people stay in their own lane? Did we move the business forward the way that we had intended with the goals and the mission, the vision, the purpose, the values that we had set in place? That oftentimes falls through with communication. But let's look at some of those family roles. There's a lot of them. The caregiver, I just mentioned the caregiver, oftentimes responsible for the emotional and physical well-being of other family members. Mom oftentimes is in this role, especially a stay-at-home mom. Sometimes there's a stay-at-home dad. So that dynamic is a little bit different. If you're comparing your family to somebody else's family, you may not get the same outcome if you have not identified who fits this role, and it can be different. The caregiver is there to provide support, love, and nurturing. Somebody needs to fill in that role. In larger families, that may be the oldest child, or it may be the oldest girl child. Sometimes, historically, that may have been true. I know that times have changed with that. But the caregiver, you'll also find the caregiver in your businesses. How about the provider? Yeah, it used to be that the man was always the primary breadwinner, and he was the provider, and the mom stayed at home. Now we're talking, back pre-1950s, but that's changed. Now, many families, the woman is the provider and might make more income, and the dad might want to be the family man and stay at home and raise the kids. There's nothing wrong with either one, but there is a role here. Who is the provider? And provider defines different things. There's financial provider, and then there's emotional provider, which may be tagged as the caregiver. Different word to describe it, but still a provider within the definition of that role. There are things that this person is providing. Both of them have value because one can't do the job without the other. Many times, if you talk to single moms, they'll tell you that's not the ideal situation. I don't want to be the provider and the caregiver, and number three, the protector, watching out for the kids and making sure they get home after school while I'm still at work, and making sure that they stay safe. Someone who ensures their safety and security, oftentimes taking measures to guard against physical and emotional harm. All of those roles falling on one person, that's a lot. That's a lot to ask of anyone, no matter how skilled or gifted they are. So when we start to identify these roles, sometimes we fill more than one or two, but when it all falls on one individual, a single mom or a single dad, it's too much. And in that time, and in that case, sometimes we need to pull in outside resources like an auntie. I'm an auntie, so I've filled in many of these different roles over the years within my different family dynamics, whether it's with my nieces or with my nephews. Um, Think about the roles in your family. Coming back to number four, the peacemaker, the person who resolves conflicts. Sometimes kids can play mom against dad. Who gets the final say? Who is the peacemaker? Who resolves those conflicts? Whether the kids are fighting, or one of the kids wants something and mom disagrees and dad disagrees, or dad wants to give it to him but mom disagrees. Like, where does this peacemaker come in? Who gets the final say? Is there a final say? Or is there, a mom and dad timeout, and we have to have a discussion, and we look at the pros and the cons, and together we vote and make that decision until we can become unanimous? Maybe there is no peace around a subject, but it's a role that needs to happen because there's always conflict in families, in businesses, in partnerships. We need to identify that peacemaker. How about the motivator? A motivator encourages the family members to achieve their goals, pursue their interests, and maybe not give up in the face of adversity. I signed up for soccer and I want to quit. I fell and I hurt my wrist. I want to quit. I remember, being in sports, we were always allowed to quit at the end of the season. You don't have to go again next year, but you signed up and you're going to finish it out. You're part of a team, and you don't quit on your teammates. Do the best that you can, and that's all that we ask. You need to show up and you need to fill in. And then we'll swap you out. We'll get somebody else to fill that position next season. But once you commit to it, stick with it. Who's the motivator that inspires and lifts up the people on the team to keep going, to not throw in the towel, to not quit? Number six, the organizer. Every family, every relationship, every business has a few of these. The organizer, they manage the schedules, the activities, they manage the household itself. They ensure that everything runs smoothly and the family members are where they need to be when they need to be there. may not be everybody's cup of tea. Some of us are more organized than others. Some of us can be on time easily and effortlessly. Others of us need alarms. I have alarms on my phone to let me know, hey, make sure you get ready to go. When I schedule appointments, 15 minutes before them, an alarm goes off in case I have to drive somewhere, or in case I have to get ready for an online call. I want to make sure that I have everything prepared and put together. So not everybody has those organizational skills, but there needs to be somebody who organizes these things. Somebody has to step into the role, whether it's a strength or not. There are resources available to help you become a better organizer. Who's the organizer in your family? How about the educator? This person takes on the role of teaching. My niece had many, many kids, and they are choosing to homeschool. So who's going to be the teacher? One of them was a math teacher. One of them did sort more of the science and or I'm sorry, more of the social and the digital and the marketing and the English and the language and all of those things. So in that family, they decided to split the roles based on their strengths. But who's the educator taking on the role of educating and guiding, not just on academic matters, but what about life skills, moral values? So much of that has gone out the window. We used to get that in school, but boy, less and less of that is happening in the school. It doesn't mean we don't need them. What kind of society are we building if we don't have those morals and values? And a parent needs to fill in and cover for those roles. Sometimes, like I said earlier, an older sibling may be the role model and set some of those parameters and step into that role of being the educator for kids. But depending on the size of the family and what capacity you have, who's working full time, if both parents are working full time, how does this role get filled? How do we raise, healthy and children with good moral standing and, have kindness and respect built into their behavior? Somebody has to step into that role. And what about learning and growth? That's another piece of that role, is to ensure that kids don't just get stagnant, that they're constantly learning and growing and becoming better human beings. How about the role of the rebel? We may have a few of those depending on the size of the family, or maybe not. If we have a lot of boys, we could have a rebel. If we have one boy and three girls, we could have a rebel. Maybe one girl and three boys. I'm not trying to stereotype, but is there a rebel that challenges the status quo within the family, often pushing the boundaries, questioning, questioning curfew, questioning the food choices, questioning family norms, whatever it is, they're the rebel. While this can be kind of a source of conflict, it can also spur change and growth. It can open up everybody else's minds to things that are out there. So the rebel doesn't necessarily mean negative, but it's the person that challenges the status quo. If you ask Steve Jobs, he believes that rebels are the ones that change the world because they think outside the box. They challenge the status quo. They make the changes they want to see in the world. So the rebel has a role. Who is the rebel in your family? And what about emotional support? That kind of falls under the caregiver a little bit, but I threw it in here a second time because caregivers, sometimes we think of that more in a physical sense, a provider in a physical sense versus emotional support. Who's the shoulder to cry on? Sometimes my mom, I would say, was maybe more of the caregiver, but really, a little girl might want her papa to be the shoulder that she cries on, to, that protector person that says, it's all gonna be okay. I got your back. I'm here for you forever. I'm your dad. I'm your daddy. I'm your papa. So that emotional support might come from mom or dad or both. But and maybe it'll be different for the girls in the family versus the boys in the family. And in a business environment, are your leaders trained to be there for emotional support for your employees? This isn't just the family dynamic or just the husband wife dynamic. This is the human dynamic. And we go through all of these different needs within our day and within our week and within our month, within our lifetime. All of these different roles play an active part in our life, whether we are the fulfiller of that role or the receiver of the fulfillment of that role. Emotional support. Who is it in your family and how are they fulfilling that role? Recognizing and appreciating all of these diverse roles in the family can actually lead to a deeper understanding of each other and strengthening those family bonds. Each role contributes uniquely to the family's overall health, well being, dynamic. Everybody falls into or steps into a role that's important, and we want to recognize them. We want to make sure that they're in the right role, not being picked on for the role that they play, but supported in that role. And we want that role to actually play to their strengths and not push them into a direction that they may not want to pursue. So think about the strengths and the roles of the people in your family and how do they fit into their roles? Are they doing a good job? So I started with that dynamic, that husband wife and the family dynamic. And what I want to bring this to kind of bring it all into is community. I don't know who said it first. I know Hillary Clinton said it at one point, and she said it takes a village. And that really resonated with our family. My niece having 13 children in her family. Some are foster children that they were adopted, that have adopted. Some are her biological or her husband's biological children. But they have 13 kiddos in their family. It takes a village, and we all want to be part of the village that helps her with that growing family. My nephew has a smaller family, one and one on the way. But again, it takes a village. I get to be part of their family as well. And so when we fill in these roles within our communities, we're growing healthier communities. Defining that community involvement is really about recognizing the diverse roles that each of us can play and contribute. Now, I'm not a mom, but I'm an aunt, and I can still affect their health and wellness and their upbringing and being a role model for them, as can their uncles in their life and the family, extended family, cousins maybe, or other people. Everybody can have a role in that family dynamic and how we're bringing our families together and creating and growing healthy families. So think about the communities that you're a part of. Who's the leader in those? Who's the communicator, the caregiver, the peacemaker, the motivator, the protector, the organizer, the educator? Who's the rebel in those different communities? Whether it's your networking communities, your office community of employees, or if you're an entrepreneur, the networking communities that you're a part of. Identifying those people, praising them for the roles that they're in, and also recognizing the roles that you play within those communities is going to help us to all be better communicators within those communities. Boy, that's a mouthful to say. Leadership is really stepping up as a leader. It's making a choice. Anyone can be a leader. All of us are leaders in some capacity, whether we're leading in our family, leading in our relationship, leading in our community, leading in church, leading in work. We all have the capacity, but leadership is about stepping up as a leader, whether in formal positions within your community, organization, or, by leading um, initiatives, things that need to happen in your community, things that you want to make a difference about. You drive that positive change within your community. How are you stepping into leadership? Leadership involves guiding, inspiring, mobilizing others towards a common goal. That's all a leader does, is they lead. And there are some leaders that lead from the front. There are some leaders that lead from the back. There's so many different leadership styles, and there's lots of training on how to be out there and become a leader, how to learn how to be a leader. But we all have the capacity to do that. So I would encourage you, sorry, I would encourage you to take a look at your leadership. How are you leading? Or how do you want to lead? How do you want to be seen as a leader going forward? Aha, sorry about that. A supporter. This is another role within the community dynamic. Are you a supporter? This can involve financial contributions to local causes, attending community events, or simply offering encouragement to other people within the community. It could be part of the recognition, recognizing the work that people are doing and acknowledging them. When people get praise, and recognition, they're more likely to continue the job that they're doing. And there needs to be a role of someone who can do that, who can edify, lift them up, recognize and appreciate the work that they do, the activities that they're working on, and all of that helps the community. Everything that these people do, that kind of leads into volunteer. So there's the supporter, and then there's the volunteer. And the volunteer, um, we need to recognize their time and their skill and the things that they do for that community. I worked with a lot of volunteers when I worked for St. Rose Hospitals in Las Vegas, Nevada. I was one of the volunteer coordinators for them, and we had different events where we praised and we recognized those volunteers. Volunteering, um, based on their time or their skills or their money, all of it mattered. All of it allowed us to have a substantial impact in the community and in the worlds of women who were facing some challenges. We had a lot of unique programs available that were created to benefit women. I work for the Women's Care Center, so it was primarily focused on women's needs. But when we helped the women of the community, that trickled out to the families and the children and support of their husbands. So recognizing volunteers within the community or within your networking group. Who are the leaders in your networking group? How are we recognizing them? How are we appreciating them? How are we supporting them? What role do we play, and are we experiencing that support? Are we experiencing that recognition? Do we need to communicate that we need that in order to keep going? And then there's also the advocating for community needs and issues, including raising awareness of things that need to get done, engaging in dialogues with decision makers, and participating in campaigns or movements that aim to improve a community. How about a connector? Somebody who is really good at getting to know all the key players in your community, whatever community that is. These individuals bridge gaps by introducing people, ideas, resources to each other. They foster a network of support and collaboration that strengthen the community's fabric. You all know that person, they know everybody. They're the ones that you go to. Do you know a plumber? Do you know this? Do you know that? Do you know somebody who can help me run my trust? They know everybody. They're the connector. Um, yeah, all of this is to benefit the community, all of these different roles. And I rattled off a bunch of them, and there's probably a bunch more. These are the ones that just kind of were at the top of my head, the ones that I've personally experienced or been part of within the communities that I'm involved with. All of these different roles, they're there to enhance the well-being of the community, the well-being of the members of the community, foster connection, and to build a supportive network. So how do we find our place? Identify the opportunities that align with your interests and your strengths. Step into those roles. Might be maybe dabble at your church. Start at your church with a leadership role, or ask for some responsibility at work that you see a need that you can fulfill, and step into that based on your skill set. That's how we start to identify those roles and create boundaries about it. Here's how I see this role. This is what I'm willing to do. This is what I'm not willing to do. And get clarity around the roles that you're in, no matter where it's at, whether it's family, friendships, places of employment, maybe even your church. I don't know. There's so many different places where we're in community. It's important for us as human beings to belong and to be part of communities. So let's make the best of it by identifying our roles and our responsibilities within those communities. All right, I want to do a quick recap. I went over a little bit on my time. Sorry, rambling on, but number one, self-reflection. Take a moment to reflect on the roles within your team. What unique strengths and skills do you bring to the table? Number two, communication. Is it open and transparent? Are you letting people know what's expected of them and what you're willing to do to fulfill expectations on you? Schedule team discussions. Get clarity around these expectations. Number three, embrace flexibility as roles evolve. Be flexible, adapt to what needs to be fulfilled, allow people to step into and out of roles as they improve their skill set. Number 4, encourage role exploration. Sometimes we need to be in each of the roles so that we can understand what other people are doing. We may need to rotate, move around. There was a baseball coach that I knew when I was really young. It was my brother's baseball coach, and he had every single player on the team play every single position so they could appreciate what those positions, what the expectations were of those positions. And then he found each individual's best skill set and put them in the slot that fit for them. I thought that was brilliant. And that was just, it was a little league coach. You know, we can cultivate a sense of appreciation and mutual understanding when we can step into somebody else's shoes. Number 5, define success indicators. You know, we need to, or success metrics and things that are, you know, indicate that we've achieved our goal. We want to clearly outline those key performance indicators, success metrics. What is it that we're trying to accomplish? Set those parameters so that we have a target that we're headed for. Measure your successes. Action items to take away. Number 1, individuals, you know, maybe conduct a personal audit of your role and responsibilities in all different areas of your life, whether it's at church, work, family, personal. Sit down, write it down, you know, make some notes about it. If you've never thought about this and the roles that you play and what the boundaries are that you would like to create around these roles, think about it. It may improve the quality of your relationships. It may better your communication with the people that you have in your life, whether it's at work or at home. It might help you to inspire somebody else to do the same. So take a minute and make some notes, audit your roles. Number 2, seek feedback from peers and superiors to gain insight into the impact that you have within your organization. Talk to the people around you. Ask how they see you fulfilling your role. Ask what role they see you in. Maybe we have a hard time defining our role, but others know exactly what we're good at, and they know exactly what we do for an organization. Open up the doors for communication and talk about these types of things. And most importantly, take ownership of that professional development by aligning your role with your strengths. Make sure that you're constantly improving, having that personal growth, that development into your position, whatever it is, whether you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, an employee, a leader within an organization, build your strengths and take ownership of that role so that you continually improve and get better at it. That's for individuals. For businesses, I have just a couple of takeaways. Facilitate a workshop or a team building exercise to help people identify the role that they're in. They can write down everybody's names and it can be anonymous. Here's the role that I see you play. These are the things that I see you do. And that helps them to identify, you know, us each individually to identify what it is that we do. And is this a strength? And do I do it well? Regularly reassess and redefine those roles of the individuals in your organization to make sure that they're playing to their strengths and not struggling within their role. If everyone is happy when they come to work and they look forward to it because they're playing into their strengths, the company wins ultimately. So we want to get clear on those roles and make sure that everybody is in the right position on the team. Foster a culture of open communication where team members feel comfortable talking about the roles that they're in and the expectations they see of the people in their project or on their team. When it's okay as a culture to talk about this stuff and it's not perceived as a criticism or somebody telling you what to do, it's just defining and creating clarity. It can cause flexibility and actually can cause people to come together to work more cohesive as a team. So I'll leave you with this. Discovering your role comes from understanding and appreciating the unique contribution each member makes to your organization. Each member at the table has a unique contribution that needs to be recognized and appreciated, and we all get better because of it. Whether it's a partner, a family, a friend, a business, we all wear different hats in life. Appreciate the hats that others wear, embrace the hats that you wear, and be willing to excel at the task in front of you. That's where I'll leave it for today. If you're an entrepreneur and you need some help finding your voice or creating clarity around your voice and becoming a social media star, I would love to chat with you about your social media strategies, and maybe assist you in becoming more, make it easier, make it more efficient, and building a winning social media strategy for you. If you'd like to grab 30 minutes with me, please go over to lisamosbey.com, and that's MOSBEY.com, lisamosbey.com, and you can book 30 minutes with me. I'm more than happy to chit chat about what we can maybe collaborate on, or how you can expand and grow your business using social media. Thanks for listening in. I hope this was valuable. I hope you had a takeaway or two. It's been really fun for me to interview these folks and make some notes and pull some of this together. So I appreciate you listening, and I invite you to come back. I'm here every Tuesday on Living with Favor, and we're a part of the WinWinWomen.tv network. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye.